And we're live, hopefully. I'm just gonna spend a couple little seconds here chatting to myself, making sure that everything works. I don't see anything yet, but on my monitor over here, it looks good, and we are live. Excellent. Good morning. Oh, let me mute myself so I don't have an echo of my speech. Welcome to day 4, the day that I certainly have been waiting for, and hopefully you guys have as well, the day that we actually schedule things. Good morning. Or I'm sure for some of you it is not morning, but hello. So the plan for today is, yesterday I did GCP first. Today I'm going to do Python Anywhere first. I'm going to always try to do the most general skill first. And for Python Anywhere, we're going to be doing some bash scripting, which is a little bit more general than getting a project set up in GCP. And it does sound like some people had today's email go to spam or the promotions tab. So if you didn't get it, maybe check in there. And I also pasted the link in the chat, and it will, the links for all of these days except for day 2 are kaggle.com/rtatman/dashboarding with notebooks day dash, and then the day at the end is going to be the day. So the link for tomorrow, which is not going to work because it's not made yet, is going to be the same but with 5 at the end. I don't know why I showed you guys a 404, but that's what it's going to be. Yep. So, before we dive in, I didn't actually yesterday, I realized show off anybody's work, or the last 2 days, I think. So I do want to go through some dashboards that I enjoyed looking at, maybe give you guys some little inspiration. Maybe you'll see your own work, we'll see. Oh, and this is just the original notebook. So these are restaurant inspections, and this dashboard is by Maria. And I really like this map. It's a nice little, it gives me the sort of the same feeling as a heat map. You can sort of see areas of concentration, but each dot is a specific restaurant, and when we mouse over it, we can see the location in latitude and longitude, and then the day, the name of the restaurant. So I really like this visualization. This one down here shows the restaurant score over time. So each of these points is a day, I think. And what I might have done here a little bit differently is I probably would have done score over here on as a color variable, and I probably would have done maybe count or something. I don't know, just looking at this, I can definitely get information out of it, but it could be a little bit more transparent. So it looks like maybe we're trying to get aggregate score over time, so sort of like the average score for all restaurants. So then I might have sort of a line chart showing how it's changing over time. So I'm not saying this is a bad visualization, but I might make some tweaks if I were going to use this for something that I was doing. And then this is a really nice, simple dashboard. This is by Cristiano, and it just shows the road surface temperature, and it's hourly, and it's just a nice line chart. And this is degrees, which is the one that I use, Fahrenheit, the one that's not centigrade. So this is just a nice visualization showing change over time, and this is sort of what I imagine for time series. So this is sort of very, very canonical. And then we had this one. So it's another really nice map that has the label of the request. So this is for the public work services. And this dashboard is by Will Scott. And I like that there's a little discussion about the goals of the organization here. And obviously, if this was your organization, you would know what the goals were. But some nice little visualizations. And then this one shows the average days to close requests. So the people will send a request to the public works, and then they get to them eventually. And you can see that police requests tend to be closed really quickly, and recycling requests and GIS requests tend to be closed very slowly. So the only thing I might change with this visualization is, rather than average, I might do something like median, because average can be skewed if there's just one request that's been open for 5 years doors and they're never gonna close. But a very nice visualization. I think I just had 2 more. Oh yeah, I love this map because if you click and drag, you can rotate the earth. Isn't that cool? This is a really, really nice map. I really enjoyed this. And this was by Alkis. And this, there's some really nice visualizations in here as well. There's so yearly carbon emission by continent. And then sort of sum by year, and you can see the year, and also I think that's probably billion tons of carbon. And then this is really nice. Each little blob is it's a little bit overlappy here. I think each blob is a specific continent, so you can sort of see trends over time, which is really nice. And then, of course, we can see that the US is doing the most in a bad way here. But really nice visualization. And then this one is actually a Flex dashboard visualization, which I think we mentioned super briefly on the stream. But I really like this. This is just sort of like very canonical what I imagine in my head when I say dashboard. And if I zoom out a little bit, you can see that it all fits really nicely on one screen. I can come here, I can take a quick peek, and then, you know, do whatever I'm gonna do based on it. So really nice visualization. I don't know what this trace 0 is, but it seems to be the most dangerous place in New York. So these are for New York City collisions. And you can see that Staten Island looks to be the safest, but these I don't think are adjusted by population, so I don't know what the relative rates are. But yeah, just some dashboards that I enjoyed looking at. I've been poking around and seeing what people are doing, and some really good work. So thank you for sharing your work with me. I'm enjoying watching it. Yes, okay, now actually scheduling our dashboards. So yesterday we set up the Kaggle API. We did that on GCP, which we'll do next, and also Python Anywhere. And I have in the notebook, first of all, a discussion of why to schedule notebooks. And I talked about this in the stream yesterday, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But the big things are, it means that you don't have a single point of failure. It's a distributed system that somebody else is taking care of. That probably has backups, hopefully. And if you're working on a team, then multiple team members can work on the same thing. So it's a little bit better for collaboration rather than just like, it's all on my computer, you have to come to talk to me. Which you may want to do for security reasons, depending on the type of data you're working with. But if it's just, if it's something you want other people to have access to, cloud services are a good choice. And the two services we're going to do, again, Python Anywhere and GCP. If you didn't get things set up yesterday, you might want to go back and watch yesterday's video. But I'm just going to hop in. So what we're going to do is we are going to write a bash script. So bash is the language that we've been using in the console. Oh, one sec. My other laptop has gone to sleep. Let me just wake it up really quick. So bash is the language that we've been using in the console, and a bash script is just some code that you would run as in the console. So this is the API command that you would use for the command line interface, and we are going to put it in a text file, basically, and then we are going to schedule it using Python Anywhere scheduler to run whenever we like. I'm probably going to do it at midnight UTC just to pick a nice, you know, round time. So that's all we're going to be doing with Python Anywhere. It's a little bit faster. So first thing we're going to do is start our console that we made yesterday. So this is the console that has the Kaggle API installed into it. It has our credentials installed. You can see that our history has been saved. So this is basically jumping back into the session that we had yesterday. And I didn't actually unlock my laptop because I can't type good. And I mistyped my password. Oh my gosh. Okay. Ben says not cron. So I'm assuming that they are doing cron in the background. But it's actually blah, 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 blah. There's a visual interface to it that they're controlling, so. Yes, I'm assuming at some level, but we're not going to be interacting with cron directly until we get to GCP. So let's open up our little text editor, and we are going to copy and paste and then edit this bash script. Oop, once I select the correct text. Okay, I might need to turn my mouse sensitivity down just a touch. So we're here in our editor, and I'm gonna paste, and we are going to need to edit this. And I've been using the same dashboard, which was, let me go to my kernels really quickly and get the thing that I've been using as an example. And I could use the API to search through my dashboards, but then I'd have to close the cron editor. Let's actually use this one. So this is the just going to do the visualizations that aren't interactive, but I'm gonna use this one for Python Anywhere, so I'm not running the same thing twice. All right. So it is World Bank EDA for dashboard, and I'm just going to copy the username and slug from here. Hopefully you guys can see in my address bar up there. So here is, paste. Nope. Oh my gosh. Good morning. I can use computers good, I promise. All right, let's start Nano again. And we're gonna have to copy and paste our bash script again. And I can never remember exactly how bash commands go, so I always end up copying and pasting them. But if you can remember them, of course you don't have to copy and paste. And it was, copy this, paste it. There we go. And I have a leading slash here that I don't need. And then the path is going to be the path to the file location, which I don't remember. So I'm going to have to leave right now. And I'm going to call this run kernel.sh. You can call it whatever. kernel.sh. You can call whatever you like. I just think that's a nice transparent name. And then .sh is for the shell. And I'm going to exit. And let's get the working directory. /home/r Tatman is the working directory for me. And it's going to be, it'll be dependent on your specific file path. And if that doesn't make sense to you, then check out Alexis's little tutorial that she did yesterday, which should be very helpful. And it was, let's see if I can remember this, root home r Tatman, I believe it was. All right, so I'm gonna write that out with the same name. I'm gonna exit, and let's actually run it really quick just to make sure it's running without errors. So in order to run it, I need to first change permissions for this particular file. And there is a period at the end of that sentence, but you don't need a period in the command. So I should now be able to just run and then the file name. Oh, sorry, /. And then the file name, and that should run it. And this will actually run the commands in the in our shell script. So we downloaded the the notebook, and then we pushed it. And if I go back and I look at my little EDA thing here and I look at versions, I should see that there is a new version when I refresh the page. So you can see that it was run a few seconds ago, so it's working good. Everything is set up correctly. So now all I need to do is schedule this script that we know runs to run once a day. So to do that, we're going to go to the task tab on Python Anywhere, and I'm gonna copy the URL and then put my username in here. Doopa doopa doopa. And then I'm going to put in the path to my script that I'm interested in running, and it should be in the home directory. So that is that one, unless you have moved your directory while you were in the console. And right now it is 12:14 UTC. It says it's going to run at 1641, and I'm actually gonna have it run at 0000, which is midnight, and I will create this task. Doopa doopa doo. And then I have some options that I can do here. You can see it's run daily. I can see the log of the task, so once it's been run, I can check that it's run. I can see if there's any errors. I can edit it. I can delete it or pause it. So if I don't want it to run, say, for the weekend, I can pause it here. And it will automatically expire in a month, or I guess that's not quite 31 days, so like 28 days or whatever. And then you can extend it manually. And if you are paying the money, you can have more flexibility here. And this will run once a day. That's all set up, and that's all I need to do. Does anyone have any questions about the Python Anywhere process? I know I moved a little bit fast. I'm gonna wait a second for the chat to catch up with me and where I am in time. All right, I don't see any yet, but I'm going to keep an eye on the chat, so I'll hop back and answer your questions if anybody comes up with some. Little sip of tea. All right, so that was the easy one. The little bit more involved one is GCP. So this is the Google Cloud Platform, and it's designed to be very flexible. And we are going to have kind of a lot of steps here. When I first used GCP, it was actually in grad school, and I was working on a project looking at using the Google Speech API and looking at how it performed across different dialects and ethnolects. Oh, Yuri has a question. How many tasks is it possible to set up in Python Anywhere in a free account? I think it's one. I think you just get one free task. I could be wrong. But yeah, you can see I don't have like a way to set up another one. So you do have to pay the money if you're running more than one task. But you can do this for free without a credit card, which is part of the reason that I picked this service, because I know that the credit cards are a big blocker for some people. Oh, GCP. So when I first used it, it was in grad school. I was not as good of a programmer as I am now, and I still don't think I'm like, I'm the world's greatest programmer. Like, I'm fine. I sort of know what I'm doing. I wasn't really great at Python. GCP, most things support Python, and I was sort of muddling through. And I actually got a lot of help from my husband, who's an Android developer, because I was just deeply confused by things. So that's part of the reason that I've gone through and I have done very exhaustive steps for getting everything set up. And there are some comments that I'll read at the end if we have time. And my first GCP project that I was working on took me weeks and weeks and weeks to set up, and it was so frustrating, and I was so confused. And it's really designed for, the platform is designed for developers, and I was not, again, very technically savvy at that point. So I'm hoping that we will not have struggles today, because I've gone and spent a lot of time making sure that things are hopefully fairly clear, and we'll see. The nice thing about setting it up on GCP this way is that once it's set up, you'll have a very flexible framework. So we are using cloud storage, which is just sort of blob storage that you can stick stuff in. We're using cloud functions, which allow you to run any Python function. And we're using cloud scheduler, which allows you to schedule sort of anything that has an HTTP endpoint, like, for example, a cloud function. So with these three tools together, once you've set them up, you can do, pretty much anything you want to with Python that requires some data. But again, it is a fair amount of setup. So let's get ready. The first thing we need to do is create a new project. So this should, if you are logged in, send you to your console in the Google Cloud Platform. And I am going to want to start a new project here. So you can see I have some test projects. And I actually went ahead and deleted some very old projects that I had, again, from grad school, because I'm not using them anymore. And you can see that you can have 22 projects in the free tier, which says, I follow Rachael on Google Scholar. Oh, this is going to be a link to the paper. Yeah, I'm not publishing a lot of research anymore, but I don't know, maybe one day I'll get back to it. And I'm going to call this project something transparent. Oh, one sec. My other laptop's gone to sleep. I'm sure you posted a link and I need to approve it. Let's see. Show. There we go. Excuse me. I'm going to call this something transparent, like dashboard scheduler. That's not how you spell scheduler. Swear to God, I've spelled scheduler so wrong so many times this week. Is that close? C-H-E-G-U-L-E. I see like the ghost of an underline. Whatever. And if you're on the free tier, you're not going to have an organization. So you don't need to worry about any of these options. I get cited a few times. Yeah, it's been a fairly successful research project in terms of making impact. All right. So I have made a new project. I want to make sure that I am in that project. Boop. Where's my project I just made? Did I hit the wrong button because I was talking? There we go. So when you look in this little drop down here, you want to make sure that it is the project that you actually mean it to be, so you're not putting files in a different project that you're using. If you haven't set up billing, at this point you're going to need to set up billing, and you can do that here, and I believe you will be prompted, and I walk you through here. I am not going to show you my billing account because it has sensitive information in it. And I will say that my billing account for this account is like my personal credit card. I didn't want to tell you guys to use a credit card if I wasn't like also putting some skin on the line. So I shouldn't be telling you anything that'll end up with you guys getting charged a lot of money. Little said. Okay. So, and you can see that I have billing enabled for this account, I think. I'll get an error if it's not. Blah, 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 blah. So now we're going to create a cloud storage bucket. So you don't actually need to create a cloud storage bucket for this account. This will allow you to store files like your notebook and your metadata file. I am including the steps to store data because I think that it's certainly something that I want to do a lot. But you can skip this step if you like. Wow, talking is hard. So I'm gonna open up the cloud storage console, and you can see that I have. Oh, probably you won't actually be able to see buckets because they're all in a different project here. So I'm gonna need to create a name for it, and it needs to be unique across all of cloud storage. So my recommendation is that you do something like dashboarding challenge your username or something that's unique to you. that's also fairly easy to remember. So you can see someone already has dashboarding as a bucket name. And I'm going to call it, let's see, Taman. There we go. So something a little bit memorable. And you don't need to futz with any of these. And I don't believe we need to mess up with any of the advanced settings as well. So I'm just going to create this bucket. And then I'm going to remember the name, and I'm actually going to leave this this tab open so that I can look at the name later, because I'm going to need to copy and paste it. So that's the place where we're going to stick our files, and then you can download them, you can change permissions, so you can share just the bucket with somebody if you want, or you can change permissions on the whole project so you can share it with your team. But we're just doing things flying solo here. So now I'm going to create a function, and we're going to be using Python functions today, but I know some of y'all aren't super comfortable with Python. So I have written all the code you need, and I swear to God, if this code doesn't work, I'm going to freaking cry. I've spent so much time on this project. Weeks I've spent on this. So the only things that you should need to replace in here are going to be in this little block of text. So you're going to need the username of the author of the kernel that you're running. So it's probably going to be your username. You're going to do the slug of the kernel you're updating. So for me, I'm actually probably going to do, I closed my tab with my notebook in it. So I'm going to use, one of my notebooks that I want to update. Here you're going to do the file extension of the kernel. So if it's an IPython notebook, it's going to be IPYNB, sorry. If it's a Python script, it's going to be PY. If it's an R script, it's going to be R. So it'll be the extension of whatever your file is. And you don't include a period here. So it's just going to be just like IPYNB. Probably it's going to be IPYNB because I think most people are doing notebooks, but it might also be R. And then finally, the name of the bucket that we created earlier. So for me, it's going to be dashboarding-challenge-Rachael. Sabu says GCP username. No, this is going to be your Kaggle username. That's a really good question. Thank you. Ben says, Shift-Control-T to open the tab that you closed. I think I didn't actually close it. I think I went to something else in that tab, and I don't remember which one it was. And somebody says it works. Jonathan, thank you. So much time on this. Yeah, it's much more webby than things that I usually do. So once we're on Cloud Functions, we need to enable the API. Bloop, bloop, bloop. This is going to take just a second. Yeah, it's much more webby than I usually do. Like I haven't spent too much time messing around with Flask, and it is based on Flask, I believe. I'm going to say some words I don't know now. And all sorts of endpoints and APIs, and but it works. All right, so we're going to call this function. You can call the function anything you want. I'm just going to call it run dashboard. And actually, the first thing I'm going to do is pick a dashboard to run. So we're done with Python Anywhere. I'm going to go to kernels and pick one to run. Let's see. Something good. Oh yeah, there was that, let's see. There was this NLP based dashboard I did. Sequoia says, why is there no .rmd in the documentation? Does that mean our markdown scripts won't work? Oh no, they should work. I just didn't write it down with my hands. Yeah, they should work. All right, so this is, I did this on the live stream a little bit ago, and it's based on the metadata Kaggle set. So this is going to be updated, and it's, at the end here, we have the most unusual forum topics. And this isn't a great dashboard because you can see I've got a bunch of my code, and these aren't, I'd probably do like a little heat map so that very hot topics had a hot topic, had a darker color or something. So this isn't like a great example of a dashboard, but it is a great example of a kernel that I'm going to run. And then this final one shows that in the looking at the previous month worth of forum topics, what forum topics are most unusual. So this forum topic in Russian is very unlike other forum topics based on cosine similarity of vocabulary. So it is a semantic measure. And if that is complete like nonsense to you, do not worry, not a problem. So this is the notebook that I'm going to be using. All right, so I've picked one. So I am going to HTTP trigger, have this run using Python 3.7, and I am going to copy and paste this beast here that will run the kernel and also save a copy in our bucket that we made. So just to sort of walk you through the code a little bit, and I know that it's not PEP 8 compliant and some of the files lines are too long, but you know what? Transparent names are worth it. So we are using the Kaggle API package here. We're using OS, which allows us to interact with the file system. We're using storage, which allows us to interact with our bucket. This temporary file directory can be whatever you want. This is just sort of something that's, I think, fairly transparent. Here, I'm going to put the Kaggle username of the kernel author, which in this case is, I'm going to copy this. So here, Rebecca Turner, and then the kernel slug is what's up in the forums. And I might actually go back and tidy that up and make it look like an actual dashboard. I haven't actually picked what I'm going to be doing for my live coding on Friday, so that might be what I do. And then the kernel extension, and I believe this is an IPython notebook. Scroll. Code. Sorry, no, I can see here that it is an R notebook. And if you want to check what the file extension is, probably the simplest way is to download it. So it's actually IRNB because it's a notebook with the R kernel. So I want to make sure that I have that in correctly, or it will run the file. But it won't save it to my bucket. So you can see I'm using the kernel extension here to create the file name. And then the name of my bucket, which I just created, and that is dashboarding-challenge-rc Tatman. So I'm going to copy that and paste that in. So those are all of the things that you should need to change. And that's this function. So we're not actually using the command line version of the function. We're using it from the Python package. This is a little bit in the weeds. We don't really document how to do this. It's a little bit hacky, okay? But it does work. So here we are authenticating, and we're going to authenticate using environment variables, which I'm going to do in just a second. And then we are pulling a copy of our kernel to the little temporary file directory we're talking about up here. And then we are going to push from that same temporary file directory. So if all you want to do is update your kernel, you can use just this bit and ignore this bit down here. But if we want to save a copy in our notebook, and this is the sort of general code that will work for anything, data if you're interested, you know, a text file, a log, whatever you're using. First, we need to create our bucket, which is point the storage module towards our bucket, which is this one. And then we're going to create 2 blob objects in the bucket. And then we're going to upload our files that we downloaded using pull to the bucket. So we're uploading the file kernel-metadata.json to the bucket. And then we're using we're uploading our actual notebook to the notebook_blob object. So once I run this, when I go and look at my bucket, I should see the files. And again, those files could be anything. I'm just trying to give you code that's as flexible as possible. All right, so let's hit OK. And the last things I need to do, first of all, I need to say which function to execute. So it's going to run one function per file. I can have multiple functions, but it's only going to run one using the browser version. So kernel update is the name of the function, and I'm going to put that down here. And then I am going to, you can change the region if you're interested. I'm going to add some environment variables, and I'm actually going to add 2. And these are where I'm going to put my authentication. And I don't know why Markdown has decided to restart the numbering. If you open the file and like look at it, the numbers are correct. They've just been restarted every time I have a text block. Excuse me. And I'm not entirely sure why, and I can't fix it, but oh well. We are going to add 2 variables, one Kaggle _username, which is going to be your username, and the other Kaggle _key, which is going to be your Kaggle key. And I am going to do that, but I'm going to, at that point, go back and drag this into another window and then do it out of sight because it's a secret. Somebody said thank you. Somebody said bless you. Thank you, Abel. And I have actually forgotten something, which is the requirements. So the 2 packages that we need are going to be the Kaggle package and also Google Cloud Storage. We don't need to specify OS because that is in base Python. So I'm going to add that in here so that we download the packages. So we don't actually have to, manually. Oh, sorry, you're not able to hear. Let me adjust the levels a little bit. Is that better? Hopefully that's louder. Sorry, I was moving away from the mic to take a sip of tea. So this is going to specify which packages we rely on. And the versions are just the versions that I know work. You may need to or want to update the versions in the future. Okay, so some people are able to hear. Okay, I'll just keep an eye on the levels and make sure that I'm not whispering. Okay, so let me double check my very exhaustive little thing. Yes, so the only thing that I have left to do is to put in my Kaggle username and Kaggle key. And the username I can actually do because that's not a secret. This is my non-admin account. It is Rebecca Turner. And I'm going to quickly pop this window away so you guys don't see it. And then I'm going to paste in my key. And this I am getting from my JSON file. And I'm just going to wait for the... I'm going to make sure that you didn't follow me when I popped my tab out. I didn't. Okay, excellent. And then I'm going to hide those. Excellent. So let me come back in with this tab now that my secrets are safe. So if I pop this open, you would see my Kaggle key. Excuse me. And now we can create our function. And this is going to take a little bit, so it's actually going to go through, do some tests, run it. It's going to take, maybe about like a minute to update. Once it does, we'll be able to do some checking. So once it's run, we'll be able to test it to make sure that it works. We'll be able to see our logs. So once it's been run, we can check that it's running correctly. If it's generating errors, we can check what those errors are. We can also copy a function, and this will copy everything, including the environment variables. So if you wanted to run something else through the Kaggle API, you could copy the function and then edit the Python code. Sabu says, how to get the Kaggle _key? That is a great question. So what you do is you go to your account page, which will be kaggle.com/yourKaggle_username/account. And then under this, you scroll down until you see the API, and then you create a new API token. And if you already have created an API token, then you can use that one. And it will have it's going to be a JSON file, and it's going to have the username and then your key, and the key you just copy and paste. Good question. and it's still running. There we go. So if we open this up, you can see it hasn't been run yet, but we can test it. So let's test our function. And if it works okay, which it did, thank goodness, weeks, guys, weeks. And I had to get used to the whole new stack, and Cloud Scheduler that we're going to be using is a brand new product that they're offering. So you should see okay, and it should work. And we see okay, and it works, which is fantastic. So we have a function that works, and I'm just going to get one more thing here. So I'm going to go to this trigger page, and this is the URL that will run our function. So if I open this up in a new page, you can see the message that we get. And when we tested our function, we actually ran the function. So if I look at versions, you should be able to see I just ran it a few seconds ago. And we know that it works. So the final thing that we need to do, now that our functions are good, is to schedule them. So Cloud Scheduler, like I said, is fairly new. Previously, you had to go through App Engine. And I actually earlier this quarter went through and did the whole process in App Engine, and then they launched Cloud Scheduler, and I started again from scratch. So I spent a lot of time on GCP this quarter. But this is really nice because you don't have to build a whole app. You can just use a single function. So I think it's really nice. And I lied. I said it was out of beta yesterday. It was actually out of alpha. That was my P, sorry. We're going to create a job. And I believe you get 4 free jobs. You get a certain number of free jobs. 3. You get 3 jobs a month using the free tier, and that's going to be across all your projects. So if you already have a bunch of projects that have schedules in them, and you're making a 4th one total, then you're going to start to be charged. Ben says, thanks for letting me know. My previous projects were all in App Engine. Yeah, this is a much nicer flow, I think. So I need to select a region. I'm in Seattle over here, so I'm just going to pick the one that's closest to me. If you already have a region for your job, you should pick the same one for the scheduler. Your job, region for your project. And it's going to take just a second to create it. And in Scheduler, we actually are going to use the cron syntax. So if you're not familiar with cron, it's a Unix scheduler, job scheduler application. It comes by default in most Linux distros. And like I said, I use cron for, small local jobs that only affect me. Oh, Kyle says, where is the Kaggle _slug found? So that is actually in the notebook itself. So in this case, what's up in the forums is the title of the notebook, and the slug is this part of the URL after the username. So good question. No, don't be embarrassed. It's good to ask questions. They ain't no dumb questions. All right, so let's give it a name, and you can see I've been fooling around with this, and I've had some other scheduled jobs called other things. And I'm going to call this, let's call it Update Notebook. I think that's fairly transparent. Run the notebook, and then I'm just going to put a link to the notebook just for, me to know about, or if I was working with someone else. And here is where we specify the frequency. And if you're interested, you can learn more about how cron syntax works. So basically, there's always going to be 5 slots. The first slot is minute, the second slot is hour, the third slot is day of the month, the fourth slot is month, and then the fifth slot is day of the week, confusingly. And if you leave it blank, it means all of them. So I want my job to run every day at midnight. So I'm going to say 0, 0, so minute 0 of hour 0, and I want it to happen every day, every month, every day of every month, and every day of the week. If I only wanted it to run Mondays, I can say 1, I think 1 is Mondays. Does it say? Yeah. 1 is Mondays. If I only wanted it to run in December, I could set that to 12. But I'm going to run it daily. And for the all of the data sets that I provided for the challenge, well, I didn't provide them. I gave you links to them. They update daily, so it doesn't really make sense to run the job more than once a day. But if you're doing other stuff, you might want to run it, you know, once a minute or whatever. And then I want to set the target to HTTP. So this is going to run a specific URL every day at midnight. And the specific URL I want it to run is this URL that points to our function. And I opened it here. So I'm going to paste my function, and that should be all I need to do. And if you want to check it out, once it is scheduled, you can see, you know, the frequency that we specified. You can see the target URL. Here's my little description. You can disable it if you're interested. I'm going to run it right now, except I got an error. Okay. Let me view the logs. This might be because I don't know why this would be. Let's check the logs. All right, we don't have any logs. Let's check the function logs. So let's go to Cloud Functions and check the logs for the Cloud Functions. And that's going to take us to Stack Driver. Kernel version 3 was successfully pushed, so it didn't run the function. Darren says, missed getting the target URL. Oh yeah, no worries. So from functions, could you do? Here's our function. Click into the function you're trying to run, and then the target URL will be under trigger. So this particular one is blah, 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 run dash dashboard. Sabu says, midnight of the region where you set the project. I think it's midnight UTC. That's a really good question. Let me look at scheduler again. Oh my gosh, it's one of these. SCH. All right, let's check Cloud Scheduler. And I think it says, I'm going to create a new job and then just not finish creating the job. Blah, 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 blah. Unix cron. I assumed it was UTC, and I'm not entirely sure why I assumed that, but it might be in the region that you are specifying. Or it might be your current region. Anyway, Richard says, Rachel, is there a high-level process flow of all the separate pieces involved in setting up and scheduling the dashboard, or can that just be gleaned from the notebooks? So it should be in the notebooks. And I've sort of like chunked every product together. So hopefully that will be useful. Yeah. Ray says, came in kind of light, but is the idea to host the dashboard on Kaggle as a kernel and then use a Linux server on GCP to tell Kaggle to rerun it with updated data? So we're actually using Cloud Functions. So it's just running a Cloud function. It's running a Python function that calls the Kaggle API, pulls down a copy of the kernel, and then pushes that copy back up. So you're always going to be rerunning the thing that's relevant. Ryan says it is UTC. You can set it. You selected Pacific time. Excellent. Okay, thank you. This is helpful. That was a really good question. All right, and let's go back to scheduler because it might have been that it just took a second to get everything set. Let's try running now. Did I actually click running now? Oh, Yuri says, must be defined in the time zone specified along with the cron pattern. Thank you, Yuri. This is helpful. All right, and it ran with success. So it probably was just still provisioning. And we waited a little bit and then it ran. And if we go back and we look at our notebook and then we look at versions, we should see that it just ran. Oh, I think I probably did kill it run scheduled function a couple times. So we can double check that it ran and it ran correctly by looking at the logs, which are somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, you'll definitely get an error if it didn't run. And we can also see the requests that we've made, and you can also see that there haven't been any errors. And if there are errors, you'll get a little thing here, and it'll be sorted by the number of errors. So if something is throwing a lot of errors, it'll be at the top. And we can also check the bucket for our storage. And you can see some things have been created automatically for us. But if we look in the bucket that we made, you can see that we've downloaded or sent to it the kernel metadata. So I could check that out and learn about the kernel. And then we also have the, what's it called? The notebook file itself. So this is a place for you to, stick files. And I can also manage permissions. So if I wanted to share just my notebook with somebody, I could do that and add people. Yeah, so that is how to get everything up and running on GCP. And like I said, you don't have to use the buckets if you don't want to. I think it's just useful. And I'm going to go through and read some comments. Oh, Samu, thank you. That's so nice. Blah, blah, blah. You did not mention that Google Cloud Colab looks free. Thank you to introduce Python Anywhere in GCP. Yes, Cloud Colab is free. I don't think they have a scheduler. I could be wrong on that. I can actually ask the Colab team. I have some friends on there. Yeah, they might have a scheduler. I don't know that you can run kernels from Colab. You might be able to. I don't know. That seems like a lot of hacking. Rob's been updated at midnight. Let's see. It's after midnight now. Has it been updated? Seattle road temperature dashboard. Oh, that's very nice. What is this? Is this Leaflet? This looks like Leaflet. Scroll. Yeah, it is Leaflet. Really nice little map of Seattle. Gives you the temperature on different places. So here's Magnolia Bridge, the Aurora Bridge. These mean things to me because I live in Seattle. And then looks like, oh, that's really nice. Little historic minimum, so the coolest it's ever been, and then what it was yesterday. So you can see it's warmer than it has been. And did it run? Let's look at versions. Did it run at midnight? 6 hours ago. It must not be midnight my time, but it definitely ran 6 hours ago. So excellent. Question, which URL to share with team member as dashboard? So that would be the URL of the notebook. So for this particular dashboard, it would be the URL up here. I think we also have... Oh, maybe I'm making that up. I thought there was little buttons to share your notebook on social media. I thought we had to like tweet this dashboard button. Tweet this notebook button. I am enough with that. Maybe not. Am I hallucinating that? Anyway, but yeah. So the URL is the URL of the dashboard of the kernel itself. Darren says, can you briefly show the setup of the task on Python Anywhere? Mine was scheduled but didn't run, got permission denied. Oh, so if your permission was denied, then probably it was a problem with your credentials. So you can double check that your credentials are working by And we talked about setting up the credentials yesterday. Oh, Ben says it could also be setting up the permissions for the shell script. So the two things you can do to test are Kaggle.h. This will throw an error if your credentials aren't set up, and mine are. And the other that you can do to test is that /run kernel, whatever shell script you have. And if that doesn't give you the download and then the upload information, then this hasn't been given permission to run as a script. So those are the two things that could get you a permission denied error. Those are two things. There are other things. Rob helped out with the kernel slug. Dennis says, what's the point to store a copy of the notebook in a bucket? Would be more reasonable to store the output of each run there. Oh, that's a really good point. Yes, you can absolutely store the output using the output function. So that's absolutely an option. I didn't do that because not everyone's going to have output. And you might also want to share just a copy of the notebook, which I realize sounds like sort of a little bit weird, but it's becoming more common to basically have your data analytics stack as a series of notebooks that feed into each other. So you might have, notebook A and notebook B, and you do something with them. I know Netflix has, like, everything in Netflix is based on notebooks. So that was sort of what I was thinking. Aw. And then people are just being super nice, like you guys. And then somebody deleted a comment. Okay, no specific questions there, and nobody's saying it didn't work, thank goodness. Yeah, the ch mod changed. Excellent. Schoolboy Unix error. Yeah, Unix is... I appreciate that when Unix was designed, it was really important to have the minimum of characters because storage space was a major constraint. But it makes it incredibly difficult, at least for me, to like read and remember. So, all right, yeah. So our notebooks are scheduled and running automatically. As somebody pointed out yesterday, it might have been Sabu. This does lead us into potential danger zones because things are just sort of happening automatically and our data's changing and our notebooks are changing, and we may not necessarily know if something changes that breaks something. So what we're going to be doing tomorrow is we're actually going to be doing some testing and validation. So the testing is going to be to make sure that the libraries that we're relying on haven't changed their functions in a way that breaks something. And then the validation is going to be making sure that the data is in the format that we expect our data to be in. And apparently you can't call that second thing testing because I did. And my husband was like, well, that's not testing, that's validation. So testing and validation, we're doing both of them. And I know in the past I have said some things about how you don't need to always be testing as a data scientist, and I stand by that. If you're writing research code and you're just like trying out one thing and you're going to run it once and then toss it forever, I don't think you need to run exhaustive unit tests. But for something like this, where you want to make sure that the way that you think things are is the way things are, testing is useful. So that's what we're going to be getting up to. Some other questions. If we have our application dashboard URL, can we set up same as Kaggle kernel dashboard using GCP? Yes. So if you have, so the big way that you would do this with other things is in the function. This code here is specific to Kaggle because it's using our API, but you could use the API for whatever service you're using, and assuming it has an API. If it doesn't have an API, you're not necessarily going to be able to do it. Yeah, and then that'll depend on the specific server that you are using, the specific service that you're using. Sorry, not the server. But yes, the sort of general process to make an API call should be mostly the same. Yeah, so things are scheduled, dashboards are great. Like, again, I have really been enjoying seeing your guys' dashboards and all the different, the different visualization package you guys are using. Some really cool stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna call it a day, and I will meet you tomorrow for the last day. Ooh. It's I feel like this week has gone so fast, probably because I've been so busy. And we're going to talk about testing and validation, and I will see you guys then. Oh, and also that's going to be the solstice, so happy early solstice. Yeah, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining.